Welcome to another lesson of the Discover Headless Tech course. I'm Marcelo Lewin, the Headless Creator. As always, get a hold of me right there, Marcelo at headlesscreator.com. Today, my guest presenter is back, Adam Kahn, VP of Enablement at Uniform. He's going to show us how non-developers can use the Uniform platform to create personalized digital experiences that send content out to multiple channels, including the web and IoT devices. So without further ado, let's get Adam in. Adam, welcome.
Hey, Marcelo, great to be back.
Glad to have you back here. So I'm really excited about this presentation, to be honest with you, because I'm into all sorts of channels, not just the web and the IoT devices, specifically the A-Lady. You can say it by name. I can't because I'm surrounded by the A-Lady and she'll go crazy here. But you're going to show us, right, how to work with IoT devices, the Uniform platform, and how marketers can use that. So why don't you give us a bit more detail than I did?
Yeah, so I'll start off by setting up the kind of the scenario that I want to show, because it helps to understand what is the business problem that we're trying to solve here. So we've got this company called Java Drip, and they're a boutique coffee company, and they are selling this experience that you can have the coffee shop coffee experience from the comfort of your home or your office. So they've got a website and they've got a marketing team who's building a website. I mean, they've got some interesting products. So of course they sell coffee beans, but they also have this smart coffee maker. And the smart coffee maker is this machine that you put in your home or your office, and you can use it to keep track of how much coffee you're drinking and your office is drinking, how much money you're saving, how much money you're spending, how it compares to other people who are using it. And a part of the smart coffee maker is that the engineering team came up with this Alexa skill. So they've got this ability for people who have the smart coffee maker to interact with the coffee maker by voice. And there's a variety of things that you can do with that. You could ask it to brew you a cup of coffee. So say you're in a meeting and you know the meeting's going to be done in 5 minutes and you need to clean up your notes and then head downstairs to get the coffee. You could say, send a voice command, create, brew me a cup of coffee in 10 minutes, and it'll be downstairs waiting for you. And the marketing team has really been thinking about this, and they're excited about the ability to be able to connect better with their audience, with their customer base, because right now, yeah, that skill is interesting, but it's a little impersonal because it was created by developers, and developers aren't really thinking about what is the right language to use to interact with the customer. So the marketing team wants to get into this and wants to have some control over it, because the process that they have now isn't working all that great, because they have to go through the developers. The developers then have to take time out of their schedule to go into this application and make changes. So the marketers and the business team want to be able to have some control over this. And the developers are kind of looking forward to this as well, because they don't want to have to stop what they're doing in order to make a change to the skill when the marketing team is capable of doing it themselves. They just don't have the technology or the know-how to do it.
Real quick before we jump into the tech stack is, why would marketing teams, not just specifically to this example, right, but in general, why do you recommend they deliver beyond the web to other channels, such as what you're just explaining with the IoT devices?
Yeah, so omni-channel digital experiences is something we've been talking about for a really long time, and a lot of brands haven't really been able to make that happen. And there's a variety of reasons for that. But the reality is, even though the web is dominating and most experiences are done on the web, think about your everyday life. You've got tons of apps on your phone. You're on your phone all day long. You might even have one of these smart speakers or devices at home. And I know, Marcelo, you've got them. You need to be very careful with how you speak around your house. But not everybody has these devices, but people who have them tend to find them genuinely useful. And it's not about being intrusive. And for brands, it's not about knowing every little action that your customers are taking, but it's about connecting with them better and getting them information that will help them use your product or enjoy their purchases better.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, this example that people are going to see, I want that. First of all, I want to track how many cups of coffee I drink. Maybe I don't want to track that. Maybe it's not a good idea to track it. But to be able to set it and all that, I mean, it's really cool stuff. One of the things we mentioned at the beginning is non-coders, right? So we're talking about no code or low code. Explain a little bit about what non-coders, which means non-developers, right? People that are in other teams that want to create things like this. What do they need to know about the A-Lady devices?
Yeah, I would say that the most important thing for somebody who's not a developer to know, and this I think is also important for developers even to know, is that this is it feels like it's this magical box that you talk into and it gives you this information and it's incredible, and it really is incredible. But at the same time, it's super easy to work with. It does not require any sort of rare skills that you're not going to be able to come by. These companies like Amazon have done a really good job of making it as easy as possible for you to be able to program these devices. Specifically for no coders, the challenge just becomes, how do you have enough control to be able to get in and control the content and the information that's being spoken or displayed on the device without being a developer yourself?
So an important part of that is, and this is something I push all the time in content modeling, is separating your content from your design, because it does make sense to mix it all up from a marketer's perspective when they're just publishing to the web. But when you're publishing to an IoT device, right, or an SMS text message or whatever other channel you have, it doesn't make sense anymore. Anything else you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think it's very important, and like you said, this sort of use case really emphasizes that there is a distinction between content and what we call presentation logic. Presentation logic is just what is the technology that you use to take that content and present it to somebody who you want to receive that content. And on the web, it's visual. You have text, you've got images, and you've got HTML or some sort of markup that's displaying that content. In other channels, like this device that we're going to be talking about here, you don't have that. You're not describing the experience in HTML. It's a little bit more programmatical. So having that separation so that the content and the information is managed one place and then that presentation logic is handled somewhere else really makes it possible for teams to collaborate, where the developers can still build the application, but the marketers and the people who understand the content are able to work in the content and focus on that rather than getting caught up in the details of the presentation logic.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm bringing up your screen here. Real quick, just before you get started, just give us a high-level overview of the tech stack involved here.
Yeah, so the tech here is we've got content coming from multiple places. We've got a headless CMS, and in this case, it's Contentful. We've got a commerce system, and we're using BigCommerce here because this is it's a business site and they do sell products. And we also have images and digital assets that are coming from a DAM, a digital asset management system that's Cloudinary. And then we've got Uniform, and Uniform is acting as the digital experience composition tool. So that's the tool that the marketer will use to create these experiences. So what we're looking at here is a web page, and it's a web page that a marketer created by selecting components to put on the page and then selecting some content from the headless CMS, entering in some content of their own, pulling in an image from Cloudinary. So they use Uniform to build this page. We're also going to be using Uniform to build essentially the screens that are used in the Alexa device.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to let you get started. For those of you watching live, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. Also, all the tools that Adam, you just mentioned, we have lessons and courses on headlesscreator.com, literally on everything you just mentioned. So if you need to know more about it, just go there. Adam, it's all yours.
Okay, so we've got the website here, and I don't want to go through the website because the website is not the focus of what we want to talk about. We want to talk about this device. So Marcelo, if you can bring up the device. So I want to show you what the initial experience is with the IoT device. So, hey Alexa, use Java Drip.
Java Drip is here to help. What can I tell you?
Okay, so Alexa, quit. Okay, so that's the beginning experience, and it doesn't do too much. It welcomes you to the skill, and that's nice, but it's a little impersonal. And the marketing team wants to have some control over this. So let's take a look at how they would be able to do this using Uniform. So over in Uniform, I'm going to go into Canvas. So Canvas is this tool that we have that allows you to build digital experiences visually. If you're building for the web, for example, then we're able to do a preview of that. For something like this device, we really can't do that because we can't simulate the device inside of the application. But what we can do is give you an interface for being able to configure the content that you want to use. So I'm going to add a composition in here, and it's going to be an Alexa skill handler. And what I want to control is that the launch request. That's what it's called in the Amazon skill world. But it really is the kind of the screen or the experience you have when you trigger the skill. So when I said use Java drip, this is going to be controlling that experience. So I'm going to just call this launch request. Create this. And I've got a request type because there are different types of interactions that you can have with the device. And what I want to do is I want to configure the launch. So this is going to allow me to specify what information is shared during the launch. I'm going to add a message because a message is something that serves two purposes. It's going to allow you to configure what is spoken out loud by the device, and it also allows you to configure the information that's going to be displayed on the screen. So not all of these devices have screens, but the device that I have here has a screen. So in here, I'm able to change the message that is going to be spoken. So what do I want this to say? About welcome back. It's great to see you again. We've got a great promotion on, and we want to maybe mention a product name because this is what the marketing team wants to use. And they're still trying to figure this out. They don't want to be too intrusive. They don't want to be pushing products constantly, but they know that they've got this new product that they're trying to get customers to get some exposure to. So they're willing to take that chance that when somebody triggers the skill that they're going to hear about this promotion and they're going to want some more information. So what do I want to do? I can type in this information, but what I want to do is I want to select a product. And this is a product that's going to come from my product catalog, which is BigCommerce in this case. So I can set a value, and this is giving me a view into the product catalog from BigCommerce. And I'm able to select a product that I want to be able to share some information about. So let's say light roast coffee. I'll accept this. And now what I've done is I have assigned the product to this experience. And I want the marketer to be able to use information from that product in this experience. So we've got a great promotion on. I'm going to do product.name. Let's put this in here correctly. Let me know if you want to hear more about it. We've got emotion. So this can be excited, it can be disappointed, but we're excited for the person to be back. So I'll set the emotion to be excited. We also have intensity. So this is just more control over the voice that's going to be spoken. And then these next few fields allow me to control the display if there is a screen. So again, not all devices have the screen, but some do. So if we do, hey there, want to learn about, and we can do this product.name. And that'll show up on the screen. And we can also, because the developer set it up this way, we can also change the color of the screen. So maybe just to catch people's attention, we want to change this to be yellow on the screen. So now I've just configured this experience for the device. It's got audio or spoken components to it, and it's also got some display components to it. So I'm going to publish this. And now I'm going to go back to the device. So if we can pull that up, and fingers crossed that she's going to listen. But let's take a look here. So, hey Alexa, use Java drip.
Welcome back. It's great to see you again. We've got a great promotion on light roast coffee. Let me know if you want to hear more about it.
Okay, so I'm going to mute it now so I can talk while it's going.
What do you
But
want to do?
on the screen, you can see that's the message that we typed in. The background, it might be a little hard to see that it's yellow, but it is that kind of little weird yellowish orangish color. And the voice, when she spoke, she said the message that I typed in. So it's that easy for the marketing team to be able to go in and make changes. So that's just the welcome screen, and that's just getting us started.
I'm sorry, Adam, to interrupt, but real quick, this is where I think you just first of all, it's very cool, and second, it's very important to understand why we need to separate content, like domain content, right? The product doesn't have anything to do with design and look and feel or anything, because you're identifying that on the uniform platform, right? That volatile information by choosing the intensity, which is sort of markup. It's like HTML, but for IoT devices, right? Where you say the intensity, the display of color, that's all defined here, but your product information is still clean, right? In your source location. So I just wanted to point that out, that why it's so important, because if you're delivering your content like this, you don't have to do any cleanup. You just pick the product and don't worry about that it has HTML markup or anything else.
Yeah, and you have a place, and in this case it's uniform, where you can store that channel specific information that does not belong in the CMS. And this is a little bit of an unusual example, because you can almost think of it as having channel specific data for two different channels. There's the voice part of the device, and there's also the display part of the device. So we're able to, like you said, for the emotion, we're able to change the emotion, and that's describing like the markup for the voice. And for the display, we've got the ability to change the color. Now, there are a lot of other parameters that we could expose here to allow the marketer to control, but the developers decided that this is a good amount. This allows them to kind of stay within brand guidelines and gives them some control over it without them going completely crazy and changing fonts and changing layouts and really creating an experience.
Finding that balance. Yeah.
So this is great, being able to show some information for the welcome screen, but the real value that the marketing team sees from this is being able to hook into the information that's in the smart coffee maker. So in the smart coffee maker, there's all sorts of information that's being collected, and we don't have an actual smart coffee maker, so we have to simulate it. And what I want to show you is our simulation of this. So we've got this thing called the dashboard, and this is showing you the sort of information that the smart coffee maker would be showing you. The smart coffee maker is tracking how much coffee is being drunk by user. So the idea is maybe you use voice to order coffee, or maybe you've got a mobile app that you can use to specify what kind of coffee you want it to brew. So it knows about users. It knows where the smart coffee maker is, the geographic location that it's in, and it's tracking over time. So it's able to show summary information. And this is something that would show up on a little screen on the smart coffee maker. And they also have a mobile app that would give you the same information. So we can see here that there's consumption. And this is based on the consumption that's happening for a specific device. So we see in this example, breakdown of consumption by day, week, and month. For today, there have been two users who are drinking. They've had 2 cups of coffee. That's the average. That Java Drip has determined is medium usage. So that's some analytical data that the smart coffee maker has based on how much you've used it in the past and based on how much other users who are similar to you have been using their machines. We've got the cost, which tells you how much it costs you to brew those cups of coffee with the smart coffee maker. And then we also have the savings. And the savings is based on where you're located. My location, if I come down here, I can see this is a breakdown. So if I'm in San Francisco, if my machine is in San Francisco, for me, it costs 21 cents to brew a cup of coffee myself. But if I go out to a cafe, it's going to cost me $3.25. So that's where those numbers come from. It's just an estimate of how much you're saving. And this is to give the customer a sense that they're getting value out of this device. And the marketing team wants to be able to use this information. And in fact, the skill is already using some of this information. So if I go back into the device, there's another part of the skill that I want to show you here, because this is something else that the marketing team wants to be able to customize. Hey, Alexa, use Java drip.
Welcome back. It's great to see you again. We've got a great promotion on light roast coffee. Let me know if you want to hear more about it.
How much have I been drinking?
You consumed a low number of cups in the last month.
Okay, so I'm muting it again. Again, we've got an audio aspect to that. It tells us that we were drinking a low amount, and that matches what we see in the dashboard. And we also, on the screen, we see a summary. And the summary is the same information that comes from the dashboard. But we want to customize this message. So we want to be able to say something that's maybe a little bit more interesting, a little bit more tailored to the experience that the marketing team wants to deliver to the customer. So I'm going to go back into Uniform, and I'm going to create another composition. And this is also going to be an Alexa skill handler. And this is going to be the consumption summary intent. So the concept of an intent is something that exists within the Alexa world, and it's basically the result of what Alexa understands the user is asking for. So when I say, how much have I been drinking, that corresponds to some configuration that has happened over in Alexa. So if I come in here, I can show you what that looks like. So the consumption summary intent has been configured with these sample utterances. And one of the things that you get from Alexa is that you are able to enter in these samples, the things that you expect somebody is going to say in order to trigger this intent. And then it's got AI models that kind of adopt that. So you don't have to say one of these exact phrases. You can use a variation of it, and then it's going to trigger this thing called a consumption summary intent. And that consumption summary intent is what we're going to be configuring here. So I'm going to select intent from my request type. And the way that the skill is going to map this back and know that this is the composition from Uniform to use is based on the combination of the request type being intent and the name matching the name of the intent over in the Alexa configuration. So we've got the summary intent, and we heard that there were some default messages. And what I want to do is I'm going to add in a response. And I'm going to have a default response, and this is going to be, thanks for being a loyal customer. This will be the default, and that's what I'm going to speak. And that's just going to be kind of generic. That's going to be the fallback, because what I want to do is I want to do some personalization on this. I want to have a different message based on your consumption level, because what we heard before is it is a little bit of a dynamic message. It will say how much you have drunk. So you've had low usage or you've had medium usage, but we want to have a more tailored message for that. So thanks for being a loyal customer will be for those customers that we don't know if they're low, medium, or high. This is probably not going to really run ever. What I'm going to do is save this, and I'm going to add in personalization. And for personalization, I'm going to add in another response. And this response is going to be for low consumption. What I'm going to write in here is, you haven't been drinking very much. Are you looking for, or do you need a recommendation for a new bean? And here's where we can use disappointed. And in the display, you haven't been drinking much. Please drink more. We're not going to do any products here. We're just going to set this up so that the the user can then ask for more information if they want it. When do I want this to be used, this combination of this response and the display? Well, that's where I go over into context. In context, I'm going to add some criteria. And the criteria is going to be low monthly consumption. So if the user has low monthly consumption, then this is the content that's going to be used. Save this. And I'm going to add another one in for high consumption. So this will be high consumption. We'll speak, whoa, you must be really productive at work during the day. And this can be excited. So you're very alert, aren't you? So we'll save this. Now there's an error. It's telling me there's an error here. There's one last thing I need to put some analytics tracking because Uniform is able to track the effectiveness of personalization. So this can write back to your analytics system. So I'm just going to call this consumption personalization. Save this. Okay, and still unexpected order. Default variant. Okay, so for high, I need to add this criteria in, which I missed. High monthly consumption. Now I can save this and I can publish it. And I'm going to go back over to the device and let's see what it's going to say now. Hey, Alexa, use Java drip.
Welcome back. It's great to see you again. We've got a great promotion on light roast coffee. Let me know if you want to hear more about it.
How much have I been drinking?
You haven't been drinking very much. Do you need a recommendation for a new bean?
So there we see the message. You haven't been drinking much. Please drink more. We heard the voice, and the voice was sounding a little disappointed and said, do you want a recommendation? So that kind of sets us up for more engagement. We were able to configure the personalization without bringing a developer into this at all. The marketer was able to control this, was able to add a couple of variations. And let's see what happens if we change and now we become a high consuming users. So I can simulate that by going in here over to users. I'm going to select myself and I'm going to change the number of cups that I drank today to 30. That should bump me up. Oops, actually, I need to do this in another window that has rights. So over here, let me just bring that up again. And I'm going to edit this. Unable to save. Okay, give me one moment. I just need to log in here. So while I'm doing this, I don't know, Marcelo, if you've got any questions.
No questions, but the power of this to empower non-technical people. I mean, I don't know if people realize how cool this is, where you can you're changing the skills on the fly without getting into any of the technical stuff behind the scenes. So now you're allowing people that really understand content and personalization to focus on that, and the developers can go work on the other cool stuff. And to me, this is like huge. So, you know, nothing really extra to add, but really it's just amazing seeing this stuff at work.
Yeah, it is. And that's really the power of what DXC is about, is making that separation between the content and the experience an actual thing, rather than in the past, the way that they've typically been really tightly coupled, where you're using something like a page builder, where it's all sort of mashed together. Or even if you bring in a headless CMS, you still are in your headless CMS, in that data model, you're adding in some of these right. elements of presentation that don't really fit in there, but there's no place else to put it.
Right. So I'll let you go ahead and finish there.
Okay, yeah, so let me, since I'm not going to be able to update this since it's been locked down, what I can do is just go back over here and we can just change this so that instead of this low consumption message being applying to low consumption, we can change this to high consumption. And we can, so we're just swapping these around. So now I'll be able to hear this other message and publish this if the data on the back end had changed. So let me go back over to the device and do this again. Alexa, use Java drip.
Welcome back. It's great to see you again. We've got a great promotion on light roast coffee. Let me know if you want to hear more about it.
How much have I been drinking?
Whoa, you must be really productive during the day.
Okay, so
That's actually really amazing because you've personalized it without any developer. I mean, literally, the marketer just was in full control of that message and how it's personalized. So anyway, I'm just impressed by it. So
yeah, trying to make it as easy as possible, and that's really the power of this digital experience composition sort of technology, is that it really does unlock these omni-channel experiences that the last generation of technology that was supposed to do this, the DXPs, the digital experience platforms, they were always way too web-centric. And what we have here is kind of a different approach where we really break out. We've got content management that happens in the CMS. We've got this presentation management, which happens in the experience composition layer. And the business users are working in both. They're managing content, but they're also starting to understand that using that content and the way that that content is used is very different than the content itself. And it should have a tool that supports that.
yeah, definitely. Was there anything else you wanted to show there? I took off your screen.
No, not on the screen, but we can jump into the code if.
Let's do that. Yep, definitely.
Okay, so over in the code, what we've got, and I described this a little bit, this idea of there being intents. The way that the Alexa skill works is that we've got these handlers, and there are a couple of different SDKs that are available from Amazon to build these skills. I used the SDK for Node, so I could write it in JavaScript. Most of the code that we're seeing here is boilerplate from that SDK. So there is a little bit of uniform code in here, and I'll explain what that is. But there's not a lot. And like I said at the very beginning, one of the things that was really impressive to me is just how easy it is to get started with building these skills. So since it's easy to get started, then it's just as easy to incorporate content from other sources. And what Uniform does is Uniform allows you to bring in content from multiple sources without you having to write the API calls to those different systems. So we were getting content from Contentful. We're getting content from Cloudinary. We're getting content from BigCommerce, but you're not going to see any of that native code in here because all of the content is coming through Uniform, and it was all configured using no-code tooling. So there is no place in the code that we have to write Contentful specific code or Cloudinary specific code or BigCommerce specific code. So the initial experience, what we saw the first time through, is just hard-coded directly into the skill. And this is what the developers did. So we see, this was the message that we saw before we started bringing Uniform in to control the experience that you have when you launch the skill. And we also have the color. So these are the three values that are sort of decoupled from the application and are now coming from Uniform. And we've got two things that we need to do. We need to get content for the display, and we also need to get content for the spoken part. The logic to get content for display is just wrapped in a function here to get content for display. And we've got some error checking, but then we've got a call that goes over to Uniform. So this is just saying, get a field value from Uniform. The field is the color field, and there's some other parameters in here. And if that field doesn't exist, then we're going to use that default color. And we do the same thing for the display field. And just to show you what the shape of this data is coming from Uniform, if I come over here and go back over to the launch request, I can see exactly the data that's coming back. If I view source, this is what is going to come back from Uniform. So there's not some complicated structure that's being created or a certain syntax that you have to learn in order to use Uniform. Uniform is just describing the instructions that are configured through this tool by the marketer, by the business user, in a JSON format. So in here, we've got a message, and we've got these different parameters, and the parameters match what we have over here on the right. I added in that message component. So the message component is in here. That's where the color is. That's where the display text is. And there are also those other fields. So there's speak and there's emotion. There's the product that may or may not be selected. So these are just fields. So that function, all that function is doing is it's going to parse through that JSON, and it's going to find that field, and it's going to set that value into a variable. So now we're getting the content from Uniform and then returning that to the skill. And if we look at where this function is being used, we can see down here. And now this block of code that I have highlighted, this is the Amazon SDK. So this is not Uniform code at all. All we're doing is we're getting data from Uniform and feeding it into this SDK. And this is, again, this is all boilerplate code except for this one line, this line 58. And the same thing is true for getting the spoken words. We're getting the spoken text from Uniform. So this is just a wrapper around the logic to parse that JSON to get things like this text, the welcome back, great to see you again. We've got the emotion is also incorporated into there. So that's what this function is doing. And then this is more boilerplate code from Amazon. We're speaking the message, and then there's a reprompt. So after we speak the message that the marketer configured, then it's going to say, what do you want to do now? And that sets up. And we could also change this so that this message could be customized by the marketing team as well. That would require just a small change to the skill, but that's something that the developers are able to do very easily. And then that further empowers the business users. On the consumption summary intent, so this gets a little bit more involved because there is a more sophisticated UI that's being displayed on the screen if you have a device with a screen, because it's showing the summary, kind of a version of this summary data. So since it's showing this, there is more logic that's in this intent, but that's not anything that a business user needs to do. That was a part of the engineering team's effort to create the skill in the first place. But just like we had in the launch request, for this intent, we have some default content. And this is what was used initially before the marketers started getting in and having some control and creating personalization. But the logic in here is very similar. Most of this, again, is just boilerplate code, but we set the data source, we get the content for display. That's using the same logic that we had on the launch request. But it needs to provide a little bit more because there's that whole user interface that shows the summary. That's stuff that's not controlled by the marketer. That's something that the engineering team wanted to put in. So this is just typical logic to call the API on the smart coffee maker and get this data. So this information is available in the skill. And the spoken voice is very similar. It's just calling this get speak, and that gives you information in here. But in this code, what the developers have set up for us is that us as marketers, we have the ability to access the same sort of summary data that's displayed on the screen. So that's the last thing that I wanted to show in here. So some of this information, we have access to that. So we can have Alexa speak things like how much we've been saving. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the launch request, and I'm going to change this message. And instead of saying, welcome back, great to see you again, I'm going to change this to tell them how much they've saved by using the smart coffee maker. So, hi again. Can you believe that you've saved, and this is going to be data.consumption.cost.savings.month this month. Now, where does this come from? This comes from the smart coffee maker. So we've got this API on the smart coffee maker that gives us summary information. So all of this is available as data. So this is a little technical. So this isn't maybe for the run-of-the-mill marketer, but for a marketing team that's maybe a little bit more data savvy, or a marketing team that's just been trained to know that there is this data available. They would be able to pull this data and display it. Now, they don't have the data for the specific customer, so they're just saying, show me what is the total consumption or the cost or the savings. So this notation that I used here is really just a dot notation to navigate that JSON structure. So data.consumption.cost.savings.month, that maps over to consumption, cost, savings, month. So I'm going to expect that it's going to tell me you've saved $161.65. So let's get this in here. So, okay, so hi again. Can you believe that you've saved however much this month? And I'm going to tone this down just so it's not excited, just a neutral voice here. And I'm going to publish this. Now I'll go back over to the device. Hey, Alexa, use Java drip.
Hi again. Can you believe that you've saved $161.65 this month?
Giving the marketers the ability to go kind of another step of creating an engaging experience by giving them access to the data from the coffee maker. And this is not bringing that kind of data into any other system. The Alexa device is going out to the smart coffee maker and getting this in real time. So as it changes, it's always going to be up to date. So this becomes a very useful and kind of engaging experience for the user.
That's pretty amazing. Plus, it allows you to customize, right, depending on consumption, all the messages, and even suggests, hey, you're running low on beans. Would you like to buy more?
Yep. Yeah, there's tons of opportunities here, and it's really just kind of scratching the surface of what you're able to do with these sorts of devices. Once you have a tool that kind of puts the power, empowers the marketers to control these experiences. And then we see that it starts to release some more creativity from the marketing team, and they start to realize that this could be really interesting and a great way for them to be able to connect with the customers.
Excellent. Adam, this was fantastic. I really appreciate you showing this. The only thing I do recommend is write a skill that makes her listen better.
or I need to train it better, or I need to enunciate.
We run into the same problem here on everything. So anyway, that was really, really good. I really appreciate it. Any final words or thoughts? If people want to get a hold of you, that email right there is the best.
Yeah, that is. And we'd love to talk with you about how you can use this technology and the ways that things like experience composition and how personalization is something that's for more than just the web. And it's more than just something that a developer kind of has to implement in logic. This is stuff that's available to business users. And for the developers, again, this is removing responsibilities from your shoulders, kind of taking away some of these boring things. Do you want to be in a skill just making some text changes? Or do you want to be creating new skills and working on new devices? This is the value of that. It's not taking work away, but it's moving the work over to the people who really understand it. The people who know what the experience should be are the ones who should be doing this. The developer should be working on the harder problems to solve, not getting content changes deployed to a bunch of different mobile devices or a bunch of different IoT devices.
Makes sense. Adam, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks, Marcelo.
Thanks to the rest of you for watching. I don't know about you, but I was inspired by this. This is really cool. I got to write my own Alexa skill right now to play with this. Anyway, thank you so much. Stay tuned for many more episodes of the Discover Headless Tech course coming up soon, actually. And as always, you can get a hold of me right there, Marcelo at headlesscreator.com. So until the next episode, we'll see you.